Human kid offers toy to lonely alien child. 500 fierce warriors respond the next day. The trading post on Nexus 7 hummed with the usual cacophony of 1,000 different species conducting business. Merchants haggled in languages that ranged from melodious chirps to guttural growls, while the universal translators worked overtime to keep communications flowing. In the midst of this controlled chaos, 7-year-old Emma Chen clutched her father's hand, her eyes wide with wonder at the alien spectacle surrounding her. Captain Robert Chen had brought his daughter along on what was supposed to be a routine supply run. Ever since humanity had joined the Galactic Trade Confederation 5 years ago, such trips had become commonplace, though Emma had never accompanied him before. The girl's mother had passed away the previous year, and Robert found it increasingly difficult to leave his daughter behind on Earth. As they navigated through the crowded marketplace, Emma's attention was caught by a small figure huddled in the shadow of a massive cargo container. It was a child, at least Emma assumed it was a child, no taller than herself. The being had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly, with large dark eyes that held an unmistakable sadness. 4 thin arms wrapped around its knees as it sat alone, watching the busy marketplace with an expression of profound loneliness. "Daddy, that kid looks sad," Emma whispered, tugging on her father's sleeve. Captain Chen followed her gaze and recognized the species immediately. A Krell, one of the most feared warrior races in the known galaxy. The Krell Empire had a reputation that made even hardened military officers nervous. They were conquerors, strategists, and above all, fiercely protective of their own. But this small Krell child sat alone, apparently abandoned or lost. "Emma, we should," Robert began, but his daughter had already pulled free from his grasp. She approached the alien child slowly, her pink backpack bouncing with each step. The young Krell looked up, its eyes widening in what might have been fear or surprise. Emma had seen that look before in the mirror, during those first terrible weeks after her mother's death. Without a word, Emma unzipped her backpack and pulled out her most treasured possession, a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Hoppy. The toy had been a gift from her mother, worn soft from countless nights of comfort. Its left ear was slightly torn, and one button eye had been replaced with a mismatched spare. But to Emma it was perfect. "You look lonely," Emma said simply, her translator device rendering her words into the clicking, whistling language of the Krell. "Mr. Hoppy always makes me feel better when I'm sad. You can hold him if you want." The Krell child stared at the offered toy, its forearms unfolding slowly. One delicate hand reached out and touched the soft fabric with obvious wonder. The child made a sound, a sort of musical trill, that the translator couldn't quite interpret, but the meaning was clear enough. It was the sound of someone who had forgotten what kindness felt like. "You can keep him," Emma said, pressing the rabbit into the alien child's arms. Friends share with friends. Before Captain Chen could intervene, before he could explain to his daughter the potential diplomatic incident she might be causing, a towering figure emerged from the crowd. The adult Krell stood nearly 8 feet tall, with midnight blue armor that seemed to absorb light. 4 powerful arms ended in hands that could easily crush a human skull, and its eyes, the same dark pools as the child's, fixed on Emma with an intensity that made Robert's blood run cold. The warrior's mouth opened, revealing rows of crystalline teeth, and it spoke in rapid, harsh Krell that the translator struggled to process. Emma's father instinctively moved to shield his daughter, his hand moving toward his sidearm, but the Krell warrior dropped to one knee, bringing its massive head level with Emma's. With surprising gentleness, it placed one hand over its chest where a human's heart would be and made a deep, resonant sound that the translator finally rendered as, "The young hunter sees the heart wound and offers healing. This is marked. This is remembered." The warrior stood and lifted the Krell child, who still clutched Mr. Hoppy tightly. With a final penetrating look at Emma, one that Captain Chen couldn't quite read, the warrior disappeared into the crowd. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" Emma asked, suddenly uncertain. Robert Chen knelt beside his daughter, his heart still racing. "No, sweetheart. I think you did something very right. But we should probably head back to the ship now." The next morning, Captain Chen was awakened by alarms blaring throughout his vessel. His crew's panicked voices crackled over the intercom. "Captain, you need to see this, now!" Robert raced to the bridge, Emma close behind him, rubbing sleep from her eyes. What he saw through the viewport made him freeze in place. 500 Krell warships surrounded Nexus 7, their weapon systems clearly visible but, mercifully, not armed. They hung in space like a school of predatory fish, each vessel bristling with enough firepower to level a city. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," his communications officer reported, her voice shaking. "It's," addressed to Emma Chen. On the main screen, the face of the warrior from the marketplace appeared, but now Robert could see the elaborate markings that denoted extremely high rank. Behind the warrior stood row upon row of armored soldiers, their formation perfect, their posture radiating deadly purpose. "Small human Emma Chen," the warrior spoke, its voice formal and resonant. "I am War Master Krellix, shield of the Imperial bloodline, guardian of the 7th Fleet. The child you showed kindness to is my son, Crown Prince Velmor, heir to the Krell throne." Emma waved at the screen, apparently unbothered by the armed fleet outside. "Is he okay? Does Mr. Hoppy make him feel better?" The massive warrior's expression softened in a way that few humans had ever witnessed from a Krell. "The prince has not released your gift. It is precious to him, to us." Krellix straightened, and his forearms moved in a complex gesture that every member of his species would recognize as a formal oath. "My son was taken by grief after his mother, my mate, fell in battle 6 cycles ago. He has not spoken, has not eaten properly, has not participated in the rituals of his people. He had become a ghost child, and I was losing him to sorrow." The War Master's eyes fixed on Emma with an intensity that made even the battle-hardened captain uncomfortable. Then a small human, a stranger, saw his pain. "Without hesitation, without seeking reward or advantage, you gave him your own treasure. You did what I, with all my strength and all my warriors, could not do. You reminded him that joy exists, that kindness exists, that the universe still holds softness." Behind Krellix, the assembled warriors struck their chests in unison, creating a sound like thunder. "The Krell pay their debts," the War Master continued. 500 warriors, myself included, now pledge the Guardian Oath to Emma Chen. Should you ever face danger, should any threat come to you or yours, speak the name of Krellix into the void, and we will come. Through fire and darkness, across any distance, we will come." Emma looked up at her father, confused. "Daddy, I just gave him my rabbit. It's not a big deal." But Captain Robert Chen, veteran of a dozen diplomatic missions, understood exactly what his daughter had done. With one act of simple kindness, one moment of pure empathy, a 7-year-old girl had accomplished what politicians and ambassadors had failed to achieve in 5 years. She had touched the heart of the galaxy's most formidable warrior race. On the screen, Crown Prince Velmor appeared beside his father, Mr. Hoppy still clutched tightly in his arms. The young Krell made that same musical trill Emma had heard before, and this time the translator caught it. "Thank you, friend Emma." Emma beamed. "You're welcome. Friends help friends, remember?" As the Krell fleet began to withdraw, maintaining their formation with military precision, Captain Chen put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. He thought of his late wife, who had always believed that compassion was humanity's greatest strength, not weakness. She would have been proud. "Emma," he said softly, "I think you just changed the galaxy." The girl shrugged, already thinking about what she'd have for breakfast. "I just made a friend, Daddy. That's what Mom would have wanted." And somewhere in the lead Krell warship, a warrior who had conquered planets cradled his son close, both of them holding tight to a worn stuffed rabbit with a torn ear and mismatched button eyes. A small, soft symbol that even in a vast and often cruel universe, kindness could still bridge the distance between worlds.